Well, welcome to the journey. I'm Kevin Polky, and we have a guest with us today, Danielle Aguilera. Did I say that right?
Angileri.
Angileri. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not say
No,
it
you're
right.
okay.
Okay. Well, Danielle, welcome to the journey. And the journey is a show that I started almost 3 years ago, and it a lot of times we're really trying to capture individual stories of how they've had obstacles in their life, and then through those obstacles they were then uh, opportunities to transform their lives. And then that could be anything from addiction to mental illness, or just other types of setbacks in relationships or whatever that may be. And I know that that is a big part of your life, is providing services for our community in the Northern Illinois. But before we jump into all that, Danielle, what if you have the opportunity to have fun? What do you do for fun?
Well, is it nice outside or not?
All right, we'll do both. So yeah, when it's
Oh,
nice outside, what do you do? And when it's not so nice out, what do you do?
so this past year, I upped it to 3 nights a week, but I play sand volleyball quite often.
Oh,
It it is so much fun to me. I don't know,
sure.
just being around all my friends and then being able to just dive onto the ground.
Got,
I don't know, something about it.
gotcha.
And then wintertime, I think it's just really about being with my loved ones. That's what
Gotcha.
I like to do.
Okay. All right. Now, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school?
Born and raised Rockford, Illinois.
Okay.
I actually went through RPS and then in high school made the switch to Boylan,
Okay.
graduated from Boylan. Then I went to Rock Valley for 2 years and then went to UW Milwaukee
Gotcha. Okay.
to get my bachelor's.
And so when you were at Boylan, or even before, or even at Rock Valley and UWM, what types of things were you into? Sports, extracurricular activity? What things were you into? What would you spend your time doing?
Um, did some sports, but also like I did green club for a little bit, different types of clubs like that. But I think that, in high school was my first time getting into psychology. So
Okay,
that's always been an interest to me. I know we'll talk about that a little bit later, but again, with my friends, my family, that's
gotcha,
always been a strong path in my life.
gotcha. So did you play volleyball when you were in school, or was that just something you picked up as an
um,
activity later?
well, you see, I did the camp for volleyball freshman year of high school, and I was like, "There's no way I'm running this much," so I did not try out.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Well, and I know, especially at Boylan, their preseason programs for all their sports is pretty intense, and it's a big
For
part of
sure.
why they've been so successful. But I can see how that would be maybe a little intimidating if you weren't ready for it.
Yes, I went from like Kennedy Middle School, not knocking it at all, but like I did many sports there, but I was like, wow, this is a little bit more competitive for me.
Mhm, mhm. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about psychology, and what was it about psychology that seemed to spark your interest, and what was the reason you gravitated toward that?
I have just always been interested in how other people's brain works, how my brain works, just why people act the way they do. Just That's always been something that I've gravitated towards. I think that it's very interesting. I think that people ignore the fact that your brain is more important, maybe even than your physical health. So
Mhm. Gotcha.
it's just always been a thing.
Yeah. So as we were talking earlier before we started recording, that probably tells us a little bit of why you spent this weekend doing what you did, doing the tour that you did. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that tour that you did, and obviously that was probably the intrigue was the psychology behind it, right?
Oh, definitely. I did the Jeffrey Dahmer tour in Milwaukee. So it takes you up and down the street where he would find his victims that he would take home, but you really just heard his story from childhood till when he was arrested. And it's really interesting because it tells you about the trauma in his life and maybe how his brain wasn't working normally as we would know it, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think in most, if not all cases, we can probably, and I think for us who, are psych majors, and then we, even pursue that even farther, um,
Mhm.
that is what I was, sounds like you are too, very intrigued by what is that story. And then when individuals don't address some of those issues, don't identify them and then address them, then it can go sideways. And I think, I don't know his story as well as obviously you do, but from what I see of it, I in other clients that I've worked with, that is part of what ends up happening is they get stuck in a narrative and
Right.
then start acting out on that narrative.
Well, even like being raised to have coping skills to deal with some of the things, right? So I think that was important for me. Like I've always been like overly sensitive to people and my own emotions. So that's another reason I was probably interested in psychology, just learning how to take care of myself a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And so you picked UWM to go
Mhm.
and study that. Now, did you study psychology or social work, or what did you study?
Yep, psychology. I have my
Psychology.
bachelor's in psychology.
Gotcha. Okay. And then after you graduated for UWM, then you came back to Rockford.
I did. One of my grandpas was sick, so I wanted to be with my family, help out. He ended up passing away shortly after I came home, but stayed here because my parents have a business. I don't know if you know that, but help them out a little bit too. Specialty engraving. It's like an awards shop. So,
Oh, okay.
but then finally got plugged into NAMI like
Okay.
9 months after I got home.
Okay. Well, yeah. Tell us a little bit. Well, first, tell us what NAMI is, and then tell us how you originally got involved with NAMI, and now what you do now with NAMI.
So NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Started in Madison, Wisconsin in the 70s. Two ladies, their names are Harriet and Beverly. They had sons living with schizophrenia, and their sons were blamed for having an illness. There was no support for them, very few resources. I mean, their sons couldn't get proper treatment, and they kind of bound together with like-minded families, and that's how NAMI was formed. But then Northern Illinois affiliate here in the Rockford area, it was started in a very similar fashion by some families in the 80s, all like mostly parents of children living with mental illness. So then it was a strictly volunteer led organization till 2015. Then there was one girl before me that was the coordinator of the affiliate. And then I was hired in 2016. My sister actually found the job online. Again, strong family tie.
Sure.
And
And
then,
so,
yeah,
so you're the executive director of NAMI, yeah, NAMI, the Northern Illinois chapter, right?
right. There are about 650 affiliates in the United States.
Oh,
So
wow.
each state has a state affiliate that oversees smaller chapters like ours. So
Gotcha. So what would be, and I remember the first time that it would have been 19, like 96, 97, something like that. And I remember the services that NAMI was providing was exactly what you said. My client was a middle school young man, and
mm,
his mom and his parents needed more support. Uh, Other than counseling, and that was a huge resource for her, or for the parents, as their son was going through some of the struggles of school and his mental illness, and how that was impacting him with the family, within the school, within the community. And it really served a great function for her and her husband.
yeah, it certainly started off as just family members supporting each other, but now we've expanded to people living with their own mental health condition, mental health concerns to support each other. Then it went all the way down to like the teen groups that we partner with, TCMF for and
So
Group Hope.
yeah. So yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about that, because that is something that has been newer in the last couple years,
Mhm.
with Group Hope coming, and the Tommy Corral Foundation coming on. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about that story, and how does that add to your guys' portfolio?
Sure. So I think beginning with families was very important because, I mean, that's how the story goes, how NAMI was created. But then we realized, there are far more need in the group of people that actually need services themselves, right? So we built our connections group out, which is for adults 18 plus living with mental illness, to support each other, to work on those coping skills, to see other individuals first and not the illness type deal. And then, I feel like as we keep going through this life, we notice that younger and younger kids are dealing with issues, mental health issues, not being addressed. And then the peer support for them is just as important. I think it's one of the most unique ways to learn, having people that are going through similar things like you. So that's how that keeps growing. And then we also adopted the adult group hope groups as well. So similar fashion to the NAMI connection group, it's for adults living with mental illness, just trying to understand mental illness, support each other.
Yeah, I remember when Dr. Charles Smith was originally starting Group Hope, he had met with me and a handful of other therapists in town that were working in the clinical setting, and I think he was meeting with in also medical social workers as well and counselors as well. But it was amazing what his passion and his drive to start that. He was in retirement, and it was, and as the story goes, it was in response to his daughter dying as a result of suicide. But it was her mental health issues that were not being addressed, and the gap in services once her insurance ran out was really the driving force for him. That, from what I remember, in the early 2000s, and now just did a phenomenal job with that. But it was time for him to pass that on, so it could continue and not be just because it was never but it wasn't Dr. Smith's group, even though he was that central factor that it was always there. But
Sure. But I will say that he still leads group.
Does he really? Does he? He's him and his wife Bobby are a pretty amazing couple. That is for sure. And then and Xavier has been on our show on the journey numerous times, and she's also a board member. Is that correct, with NAMI?
Yep, she is, and she leads our teen groups.
Gotcha. Yep. Oh, okay. All right. And so, and I know that just recently, we're still in the month of October. At the beginning of October, we had, you guys led Mental Health Awareness Week. And so tell us a little bit about how that originally started and now what it's expanded to.
So in the 90s, NAMI nationally brought this week to light, just to bring all of their partners together throughout the nation to really hone in on mental illness awareness and bring everyone together in this unified week. Though we would like to encourage, mental illness awareness all year round, right? It's nice to have that one shining light on the week to make sure people don't forget. Yep, exactly. And we just pack full every day, I feel like, full of something.
Well, and I know this year it definitely was. I remember seeing your schedule, and I think you guys, started on Sunday with activities in the community, and then ended on Friday afternoon with your banquet or your award piece. And so, was there anything that, when you think, and I know I'm putting you on the spot with this one, but when you reflect back on that week, that was a couple weeks ago, when you reflect back on that, was there anything in particular or a particular story that stood out to you regarding that week or leading up to that week or anything like that?
Let me think. I mean, I always really enjoy the rally at the end of the week, bringing the community leaders together to speak about what they're doing to change mental health care here locally. And then maybe one of my favorite parts is the awards. So we get to read people being nominated for making a difference in someone's life. Sure. And then being able to recognize them in front of a large group of people is always nice. Yeah. And then we do share personal stories on our social media. Those are always fun to read too. Not fun, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
It's nice that people get to share publicly. Maybe they have never shared before. I know one of my friend's brothers that I grew up with, like he shared for the first time, and like his family had never even read the story. So that was kind of
Wow.
cool.
Wow. Yeah. And I think, well, and similar to what we try to do here on the journey is that even though there are tragic parts to the story, if they're writing their story out, there is elements that they are now learning from some of that and growing through some of that, those obstacles. And because that's why they're sharing their story probably. And so there is a little bit of that rainbow after the storm when they share their stories, but they are difficult. People go through some very difficult things in their life, but I think, as you said earlier, there's something to be said when you hear someone else's story, and it unconsciously gives us permission to potentially um, to do our own work regarding whatever obstacle that we have in our life.
It's just so brave, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
vulnerable.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
my girl Brene Brown says,
Yeah,
yeah, gotta be vulnerable.
yeah. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage to be vulnerable, as Brene Brown talks about all the time. Is that there is nothing easy about that. It doesn't. You can't be a sissy and choose to be vulnerable, right? And
Right.
we can be exposed. I mean, something can expose us, and we can feel that. But that isn't really what she's talking about. It's making the choice to expose ourselves in a way to start the healing process. That is what she's referring to, is the courage to be vulnerable in our own healing journey.
Definitely.
Yeah. So as just anything in particular regarding either NAMI, or any thoughts or plans for what you guys are going to be doing for next fall, anything that you guys are getting ready to do, or envisioning what you want to be doing as we wrap up 21 and going into 22.
So along with our support groups, we also do a lot of first of all, family education. So we have some classes for families. We're wrapping up one of our classes for adult family members that are maybe in the caregiving role, trying to navigate the system for their loved one or help them with it. Um, so we're planning on offering two more as we start the next year, one in Spanish and one in English. But we also do a lot of community education. So I mean, with COVID, I've been doing more webinar style things.
Sure.
But it almost makes it easier sometimes for people to pop in over lunch or something like that. They don't even have to leave their work. They can maybe just listen to it in the background, or even when they get home from work, maybe they don't want to run somewhere else, but they can pop online. So just kind of getting resources in front of people. We'll have a couple more of those at the end of this year. And then we do our Gifts of Hope program, which is packing little stockings or bags full of items for people in the hospital or in residential care facilities living with mental illness. We also partner with some organizations, maybe in the domestic violence realm, to offer like hygiene products, stuff like that, children's goods.
Gotcha. So if someone wanted to either donate, or volunteer, or get involved, or seek out different services that you guys are offering, what's the best way to get a hold of you? What's the best way to get information regarding NAMI Northern Illinois?
I think either calling our office or our website. Do you want me to say
Yeah.
that?
Yep. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's 815-963-2470. And then it's just NAMI Northern Illinois, all spelled out, .org.
Okay, perfect. And so if they call that number, most likely you're going to be the one who's going to receive that phone call.
It will be me.
It will be. Okay. All right. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for everything that you're doing for Northern Illinois. I mean, obviously it's something that you do because it's part of who you are, and like you said, that following that intrigue and that curiosity of psychology, and now actually taking that interest and bringing it into a way of being a resource for the community. I think that is I think that not only is that courageous, but that's honorable, and I appreciate everything you do for the Northern Illinois area.
Well, thank you. I just think with mental illness, people feel very lonely, and that's something that's been a part of my life. I've just never wanted anyone to feel like they were alone. So I like to be able to go through these obstacles with people as much as I can.
Perfect. Well, that is a great place for. We're going to go ahead and wrap up today, but just that idea that life can be hard and can be lonely, and as we say it with Shadow of Silence, to be a light in that darkness, be a light in that we're a resource in that loneliness. I appreciate everything you and NAMI Northern Illinois do. So.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate you too.
Yep. So, well, thank you for listening with us today. And if there is something that we talked about that Danielle shared, please comment in the comment section. And more importantly, if you know someone that may need any of the resources that NAMI Northern Illinois have, or you think someone just needs to hear a little bit of what Danielle talked about, please share this and pass that information along. And I will have all that information in the show notes as well. So until next week, as always, look forward to being with you again. And thank you for being with us today.